I'd like to go ahead and call the September 17th, 2018 Planning and Zoning Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the August 20th, 2018 regular meeting. Commission, do you have a chance to review the meeting minutes? So can I have a motion? I have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor? Approval of minutes passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to discussion item number 2. It's under tab 2 of our booklet. It's the applicant's Michael Twitchell, 370 Barnesbridge Road, minor plat, Twitchell edition. Someone here can speak?
Yes. Excuse me. Good evening, Commissioners. Excuse the lack of the title for the correct item tonight. This is our next one after this, so don't pay attention to that. The applicant is the owner of an improved and residentially zoned property located at 370 Barnesbridge Road. The tract of land is approximately 16.67 acres and contains a single-family home, a large pond. Applicants requesting approval of a minor plat in order to create a lot to build a single-family home on. Property resides in an Sept 3 single-family residential zoning district. The proposed minor plat will have a 2-acre lot located southwest of Lion Cemetery and northeast of the existing home. The lot will have direct access to Barnes Bridge and access to the pond in the rear. The applicant has verified that the above water area of the pond, using the maximum water level of the pond, is greater than 1 acre in order to meet the size requirements for on-site wastewater treatment. The setbacks are going to be 70 on the front, 30 on the sides, and 80 feet in the rear. With all that being said, town staff recommends approval of the minor plat.
Someone here to speak? Were you noticed by anyone from the...
Oh, the applicant, I don't believe is present.
Okay, open the public hearing. Does anyone like to speak on the topic? Seeing no one, I close the public hearing. Commission? I'll entertain a motion for item number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the minor plat for 370 Barnesbridge Road be approved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Clear. That passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 3, Christopher Brown, 100 Pasco Road, specific use designation for warehouse and office building, site plan for Kodiak Pasco addition.
Yes, this is the first 2 requests from the applicant. This request is a special use designation to allow for the establishment of an office and warehouse facility located at 100 North Pasco Road. The subject property is zoned highway commercial, and this district allows for the proposed warehouse upon granting of special use designation. Specific uses are those which are generally compatible and permitted land uses in a given zoning district, but which require individual review of their location, design, configuration, and the imposition of conditions in order to ensure the appropriateness of the use at a particular location within a given district. Applicant has stated that the warehouse portion of the building will be used to store company merchandise but will not be accessible to the public. Service areas will be located at the rear of the property as shown on the site plan, and there will be extensive landscaping throughout. The subject property is currently an unimproved commercially zoned tract. It lies west of Fence Supply, which is under the same ownership. The company also owns a vacant residentially zoned lot to the north, which contains a single-family home, has recently been demolished. And Life Community Church is located to the west, across North Pascal Road, and US 80 bus to the south. Real quick, to go over some details of the project. Building will be 2 stories, cladded with masonry, 30 feet in height, and contains 17,000 square feet. 10,000 of it will be office, and the rest, the remaining, is proposed for warehouse. The lighting along throughout the property is requesting, or the applicant is requesting, an alternative to the standard UDO lighting, Hanover Euro series. An example is shown in your packet. All that being said, public notices were sent out in the town's official newspaper for publication on August 29th. As of the writing of this memo that has been included in your packet, no letters were received last Friday. However, we did receive a plethora of emails and letters today. However, not only one of the letters came from the property owner, and you guys can see that in the attachment papers I've given you, comes from a property owner to the north, and the remaining letters come from various owners on the street and in the abutting area. So I'd just like to make that clear to you all. That being said, staff outlined comments to each of the standards above. Such comments were provided in italics in your memo. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission determine that such use meets the standards above, town staff will recommend following conditions. 1, the applicant has submitted a minor plat for the lot on the current agenda. Should the plat be approved, it must be recorded, and a copy must be delivered to Development Services Department of the town prior to applying for building permits. That's all we have for you right now on the special use designation portion.
Okay, is someone here to speak on behalf of the... Sir, if you could just state your name and address.
I'm Christopher Brown, and so my address will be 6611 Dartbrook, Dallas, Texas, 75254. So representing Kodiak Brands, also have Jameson Carr here representing Security Brands, which the project is a joint venture for Security Brands. I own the property, and then the building would be occupied and, like I say, done along with Security Brands on there. So.
Commission questions for that? So I haven't had a chance to review all these comments about these all came today?
Yes, they all arrived today. Just, I guess I could note on a few of the things. A lot of the concerns come from the increased traffic that our neighbors are suspecting will be flowing up and down Pascal Road it's an already substandard road. That and just the encroachment of commercial activity on a neighborhood residential. That was the majority of the comments we've seen. There are others, particularly from the abutting lot owners.
Okay.
The majority of the public here today, I think, is for this.
If there's no question for you.
I have a question. Is it currently highway commercial?
Yes, it is. Just actually just the lot and what the neighbor or what the applicant owns to the east. So all of Fence Supply, that's the only highway commercial we have, and then across from it is local retail, which is where the Life Church is, and then everything to the north is all single family residential.
And for the home,
yes, where the red
that was in highway commercial?
That was in highway commercial, so it's, now that it's been demolished, of course, it can only continue as.
Right, but it was a house built
Yes.
in highway commercial zone.
I think at one time it was probably residential and they changed the zoning.
That house was built back in the 50s, 60s. It was an older house, one of the first houses there.
Is anybody living there?
What's that? I'm sorry?
It's demolished.
It's demolished.
Demolished,
It's
yes.
gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
The latest aerials we have don't show it. It's demolished, I think 6 months ago or so.
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure, certainly.
Could you tell us what's going to be stored in the warehouse?
Sure, absolutely. I'll let Jameson speak on that matter.
Yeah, so it's primarily keypads, like you see at the end of a gated driveway or gated community. So we have those manufactured through contract manufacturers, and then we bring them in, repackage, and sell them.
And what's the, what would you think the frequency of the truck traffic and everything through that?
A little over 90% of what we ship just goes out UPS, so it'd be very infrequent on the trucks.
So it's all brought in by UPS generally?
Generally it's brought in by UPS, and almost all of it goes out on UPS. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you don't foresee any large trucks coming in beyond the size of a UPS?
I can't say there wouldn't be any, but yeah, that's not the majority of what we do, because it's, you know, the keypads are small, and a lot of times they're drop shipping to a location where an installer is going to put one on the end of a driveway.
And you deliveries Monday through Friday, business hours? Or?
Yeah, we you know, part of it's a call center. We offer technical support there, so they're Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
And maybe can you switch to the site plan there? Just want to make one point as well. Of course, there's an entrance on Pascal as well as on Highway 80 there for, you know, majority of the traffic will be on Highway 80 just as it is, you know, with any other commercial traffic. So for fire reasons, there's an entrance on Pascal.
Is this a location that customers would come to for any reason? So most of your items will be shipped out from here?
We don't have any kind of retail or anything like that. We don't sell directly to the end user. We sell through distributors. So I suppose there could be an opportunity where one of them visited.
It's
but
very limited.
It hasn't. I haven't hosted any in the last year. I can say that. So yeah, it would be very limited.
Just looking, I don't know if y'all had a chance to look at some of the comments made by the residents in that area, but generally it concerns the driveway coming off of Pascal there, and they're concerned about the traffic and just, you know, basically how that looks on what's generally known as a residential street. I guess another question would be, did you ever think about, I know the ordinance you need an egress and an ingress and an egress. Did you ever think of just making that U shape there where your entryway is off 80 and the exit's off 82?
We need the access off of Pascal again, for which what we had discussed with the fire marshal earlier, you know, or whenever we were doing an initial review of that, was why there's, let's say, on Pascal as well as on Highway 80 to be able to have that entryway.
Couldn't have both entryways off of it?
Too close, US TxDOT wouldn't approve it.
Be too close to Pascal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a great idea, but again, TxDOT wouldn't approve it. So.
Okay.
So it sounds like the egress and ingress have to be one on Pascal, one on 80.
Based on our current standards and even TxDOT standards, where they have it designed is likely the best location, just because of the intersection, the car stopping there, as well as we need 2 points of access. The fire chief will request 2 points of access.
The other issue, of course, is in the southwest corner there. I don't know if you've ever noticed it, what is at Pascal and Highway 80, that is a very, very steep ditch with drainage going under Highway 80. So it's not like you can put it at the corner or anything else. So we try to put it in the, you know, most obscure location to be able to give that access.
So trying to anticipate what some people are here for, they're going to want to know is exactly what kind of traffic is to be expected. And the best answer you can give with the most specifics would be kind of helpful.
I'd say when we could move into the building, it'd be about 8 employees initially.
So 8 employees with private vehicles getting there at 8 o'clock and leaving at 5 o'clock kind of thing?
Correct.
That's correct.
And then trucks throughout the day?
Not throughout the day. UPS is going to come once a day on there,
UPS
you know, once or twice.
Kind of thing, or I'm not.
Normally, typically, they'll come in the morning and the afternoon is what
How many
UPS
UPS
does.
trucks would you expect to?
Well, you got one that picks up, you know, drops off in the morning and they pick up in the afternoon, typically is what you
And
have.
then no after 5 traffic, I assume, because
No.
and then as far as large trucks, bigger than UPS trucks, possibly.
Absolutely, it could be possible, but it's not going to be the norm. Again, as we, you know, as Jameson, my understanding is it would be in small boxes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very, very few large trucks.
We don't anticipate the trucks to go down Pascal. They just come into the office and go back on the freeway.
They would go down 80. I mean, it wouldn't make
Yeah,
any sense for them to go down
There's
past.
not really a place for them to, you know what I mean? They want to get back on the highway. They're getting paid for their miles. So they're going to get to the distribution centers.
Unless they get a delivery on Pascal, UPS, I mean, they drive through my neighborhood all the time.
Oh yeah, the UPS trucks, if it's part of their route, I don't know their exact routing
They
here.
would tend to stay on the
It's still a UPS truck.
I know, for instance, our postman that services us at Fence Supply, as well as our UPS route driver, stays on 80. I was asking the postman the other day, matter of fact, if he went down Pascal, just asked him in a general question that I was asking him, and he said, no, I don't go. I stop at, on Highway 80 is what I service. So typically that's what, they're servicing the businesses is going to be different than what's servicing the residential.
Again, in anticipation, the people, I live near Pascal, and I know what the people deal with there is.
Sure.
I mean, everyone knows in Sunnyvale lives kind of what people deal with there because it's sort of a cut through to avoid the school traffic. And I think the people there are very sensitive to that. And I sort of understand their plight a little bit because people can get speeding down that road. I mean, it has nothing to do with you guys.
Yeah, exactly. I can't control what other people are doing on Pascal,
I mean,
obviously.
their plight is, I mentioned they're very sensitive residents of Sunnyvale that are kind of very sensitive to all sorts of traffic issues. So, I appreciate any other questions for these? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing. Does anyone want to speak on this topic? Sir, if you just state your name, address, if you could.
Yep. My name is David Jones. I live at 102 North Pascal. We're the property right there by the fence company. Guys, do me a favor. If I don't speak loud enough or too loud, tell me. I'm hard of hearing.
No, you're good now.
Okay. Most of the questions in terms of what was going on, Eric has answered. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Is this going to be one tenant in the warehouse, not multiple? Is that what we're seeing?
One tenant.
It's designed for one tenant.
Okay, it's going
This
to.
is intended to have one tenant.
Okay, it's not going to be multiple use by multiple tenants with. Okay, that was one of our biggest questions we had.
And I think that SUD covers that, right?
It would cover that, and if need be, if they wanted to add another tenant, it would need to meet the requirements
Right,
of the EDO, so they would have to go through this process.
You're sort of covered, I mean, if they wanted to do another tenant, it would be sort of another SUD.
Good, okay. I do have a question that may be directed to them. They're talking about having like UPS, FedEx coming in and out. Are they going to be the type of operation where there going to be a trailer assigned to them and they swap out trailers daily, or are they going to be in and out? Because that's a big question.
That's fair. That's an in and out. So these are typically not the trailers that are pulled behind the tractor. These are the box trucks that you see, the regular UPS route.
Okay, so it's not going to be an actual trailer that sits there. But I've
No,
seen
we're
that.
not.
Okay. The latest that we see up here, is this what was mailed to us, the citizens?
Yes, sir. That is the latest.
Has there been an update?
Or what was mailed to, because you came in last Friday and I think I gave you the new one. But what we have up there is the latest.
Okay, so this is asking for the special uses for warehouse, and is that the only special?
That's the only thing that requires us.
Okay.
That's because office is allowed by right in that.
Okay, so code tells us we can do an office, warehouse is special use. Are there going to be a loading dock?
There is no traditional loading dock. There's an elevated cement platform where the truck pulls up and then you can walk down some stairs. It's actually just, I believe it's just a door that pulls in and the whole entire truck goes inside of the building.
How much parking space or backing space is being allowed for that loading dock, do we know?
It's been reviewed by our engineer and he finds that it's adequate, that they made revisions on the turning radius.
Well, my concern is the size of the trailer. That's why I'm asking that, because today we might use one size trailer and then upgrade it or change it once this has been granted. We've seen that done in the past. Now I need a little education because this is called special use. I'm used to hearing the word variance. Is there a difference?
Let me give you the naive planning and zoning kind of special use is sort of the permission to use something for a given purpose. A variance is something that you have to change to fit the town code. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Well, are we making a change to meet because of the town code?
No. So oftentimes in our zoning you have to apply for an SUD so that the planning and zoning committee can sort of keep an oversight of what goes in there. And I think it's an extra layer that we've almost created a little bit of an extra layer for some. So for example, if they wanted to do a restaurant in a retail area, we sort of, for the type of restaurant, it would be an SUD.
Right, if it's
Okay.
something that's going to have some kind of effect to the surrounding area that we might need to impose some conditions on, or have more oversight over, those specific uses require a specific use designation.
Okay,
To be
so.
quite honest with you, I think it's a way for us to kind of keep an eye on what goes into certain things.
Exactly. I mean, in terms of what you guys are faced with now, you got a bedroom community that's growing. And if you don't control the growth, you'll end up with Houston or something stupid.
Yeah, and this doesn't necessarily control growth, but it controls what kind of businesses go in to certain areas.
Would the word hardship apply as it does with the variance? Because the way I've heard hardship's denied because it doesn't create a hardship for the person asking for the variance. Does that apply in this situation?
And that applies more to the Board of Adjustments and actually applying for variances on different lots. I don't think hardship applies to the SUD.
Okay, okay.
I mean, that would be an interesting, right,
Okay.
ethical issue, not a really.
I got a lot of notes here, so please bear with me. So we've answered the question about that. I think y'all have already caught what most of us are concerned about, is access in and out of Pascal. We are inviting traffic to come from the north to us down Pascal, because if they come down Collins, then they have to go to the service road, around, and back in. And gentlemen, ladies, we all know if you put in your GPS, it's going to take you the quickest way there. That's our biggest concern. I don't know if any of y'all been up and down our street lately. I've lived there for 8 years. My wife built her house 22 years ago. In my 8 years, I've seen the street replaced once completely, taken down to the dirt and replaced. I've seen it patched and topped multiple times. What are we going to be doing to the street with this added traffic? We know we got a housing development going up north of us, which is great. It's great for the tax base, which Sunnyvale is very fortunate with that. But that's where we have a concern with traffic, and you're inviting it with that access in and out of Pascal. Yes, we know. My question, has TxDOT given a written no, we will not allow the two access and entrance off of 80?
During the process of approval for the construction, the building permit, the applicant will have to go through the process of approval for TxDOT for that entry drive. Just giving the layman's terms on this, they have specific distance requirements for those entry drives on the frontage road. So I have rarely seen them give any exceptions on that. So he can request that or propose a separate drive or additional drive, but I wouldn't, even a town standard wouldn't allow that.
Okay, because we know you had to have two entrance and exits for the fire. We know that.
Correct.
Correct?
Those need to be a certain distance away from the intersection.
Okay. And so because of that, that's putting, is this the only piece of land that the fence company has that they could be doing a project like this? Would be a question that y'all can't answer, that only they could, which I think there might be. Bear with me, I got a lot of notes.
That's okay.
Question I have for y'all, I'm not looking for an answer, but my wife's lived there for 22 years. There have been a number of special request variances, where we're going to call them, done over the years. Are y'all aware of the history of this property and all the requests that have been put forth since the year 2000, I believe?
I've been on the P&Z, I think 8 years. I've never heard of any requests, but actually history from us to us.
I did get a copy of all the last, there were actually says variances on it that's been done. My request is y'all get educated on the property itself and what's been granted, and where we have a concern is things that said they're going to be done and they're not done. Even some letters have been stating if they follow the guidelines from an independent engineering firm in terms of a berm to control water, architect, landscape architect stamp on the plans. We've had promises of landscaping. We don't see it. If you view the current facility there, I hate to use the word eyesore, but we see a lot of things that don't look good from the road for the citizens and people driving through Sunnyvale. I think history should play a role in what is granted in the future. Because it's all about relationships, about our neighbors, how we treat each other, be it business or individuals. And we feel like that things haven't been done properly.
And sir, I understand, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I can firmly, support the idea that this committee and with the town staff, these plans, and we're a little bit combining the two agenda items because really we're talking about specifically an SUD here. We're not, it is a minor plat will be the next agenda item, so we're kind of combining two issues here. But he asked, they have to fulfill the requirements for them to get the plat, for them to get the occupancy, right? I mean, they can't just.
Correct.
It's not, I mean, I don't know what happened in the past, but I know that going forward, you can't just, rubber stamp things and say it's going to happen and not. I think the city has ways to. There's ways to stop this, right? I mean,
well, I think this. Excuse me, interrupt. I think the city has a responsibility to make sure if a promise has been made that it's kept.
Agreed.
And that holds for me as a citizen or any businessman in this town. And accountability is what you build off of. I mean, that goes in our everyday life, and that's something that we have a big concern about. I had a lot of pictures I was going to show you, but I'm not going to do that. I would advise y'all to take a chance to look at what's going on. We see piles of rubble. We see a shed, a barn with a roof coming off of it. His last variance was given to build a fence that's supposed to be masonry out of a precast. We had that falling. 2 panels have fallen down in our yard. We had the fence separating where it's not maintained. The man owns a fence company. I mean, it's something we've told him 3 years ago that panels had fallen down and one's still in my yard, halfway my yard in his. Again, back to the good neighbor. I think all these things should play a role in allowing someone to go forward in our town. I think they need to be concerned about the well-being and the growth of our town and how we're presented to everyone. So that's our biggest concern too. I'm not going to rant and rave. I want to thank y'all for what y'all do.
Well, thank you. And Rashad, I think we should follow up on some of those items because that sounds like something that's, I mean, again, aside from this meeting, it sounds like we have a person in the city that enforces those things.
Yeah, if there's issues with dilapidated fence, stuff like that, that could be a code issue that we follow up on.
Could we just help them with the...
Should I give this to anyone to see?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that's a concern we have with
Can we just,
the fence issue.
Eric and Rashad will get you talking. I'm not really sure who does that, but we should have someone to take care of that, right?
Yeah, like I said, I'll have my code enforcement officer look into. There has been an issue with regard to the dilapidation of the fence.
This is on the back of your property?
That's what that is that it's a masonry fence that was built. It was supposed to be masonry, and they built it out of precast.
Right.
And we literally have panels that have fallen out. One's been put back in, one hasn't, but there's gaps in it. You can see light coming through. I mean, my wife is scared to mow the yard. Now I got to mow the yard all the time. So, and it's just things like that. There was a letter, where was it? January 9, 2005. There was a motion by member Burkhalter approved the application for a site for the fence company as long as the terms and condition of the Terry Milligan letter dated 12/19/05 was met. Site plan being stamped by a licensed landscape architect, and a berm along the west property line to migrate water conditions. Have these ever been done? Our backyard flooded last Saturday. Y'all know the rain we got. Had a small lake back there. My wife said it didn't happen until things were done with the fence company. And again, you can go back and review this. This happened in the multiple times we've been here.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think we should certainly follow up with you to kind of review that stuff. That's important.
Yeah, and that's the whole deal is the impact. One more thing I want to say before I step down. The town sent letters out to the people that are within how many feet of this property? Okay. We're not talking about just a building. We're talking about road access and going up and down the street that has, how many houses? I spoke with people yesterday. I walked up and down our street talking with a number of people. They didn't know anything about it. Again, if we're talking about a building, that's it. Okay, that impacts me. But people at the end of the street, it impacts them. So we need to reconsider how when we're talking about changing traffic in a neighborhood.
We deal with that issue of notification, I don't know, probably monthly. If people have issues with our notification process, and we're slowly trying to ramp it up and kind of with website and things like that. But I think we fulfill the code. I mean, it's like there's the bare minimum we do, and then sort of.
Yeah, but let's go back. Bare minimum. One size doesn't fit all.
Agreed.
Okay, because not one application is the same as the next application, and this is back to the growing of the town. It's going to be trying for everybody. Growing pains are not easy, but they're good. I mean, there's things that we need in our town. There's services that we need, and that's the ones we need to be concerned about. So, gentlemen, again, and ladies, thank you for your time. And
thank you, sir.
Sure. Just one quick comment. You had a lot of points that you wanted to address, and I wanted to make sure that we got to them, but for purposes of time, we probably can't get to all of them. So I would recommend that next time we have one of these meetings, bring your written comments and then submit it to us, and we will adopt it as part of this record.
Great, great. So can I go with, if this goes forward to the town council, that'd be the proper way for me to make my presentation?
Yes.
I can do that. I can do that. Hopefully it doesn't go that far.
Just so that your efforts aren't in vain.
I appreciate that very much. Thanks again.
Yes, ma'am. Just a name and address.
Okay. I'm Maureen Threet. I'm at 117 North Pascal, and I hope you have my comments I had submitted today. I wasn't aware of this until Saturday, and the fact that this is called a SUD, I went and looked at the United Development Plan. So on page 309, 3.0708, it said consideration should be given to compatibility with surrounding land uses, traffic, and aesthetics. So I looked at the Dallas Central Appraisal District, and 100 Pascal Road was previously residential. So having this now, I mean, every other thing on the street that has a driveway is to a house. The church, even though it's zoned, highway commercial, they're not using any driveways off of Pascal. There's no access to the church from there. So every other thing on that street, on our street, is to a house. So my concern is that now I have a parking lot on my street, and based on what I read in our Sunnyvale development plan, a warehouse, I looked at the map on the chart on 166. Warehouse had 2 boxes checked. It said, it's got to be highway commercial or light industrial area. Well, until recently, it wasn't highway commercial. It was residential. So I think you have to consider that. Now, I know we're growing and all that, but, to me, there's a lot of other places you could put a warehouse in our town that aren't on a street that are full of houses. The latest Stony Creek development that is now building will feed onto Tripp and Pascal. It's called Shelby. That's the name of the street, but it is right across. They're going to come right out on Pascal. So I don't know how many houses are in that development, but that's traffic that in the next 6 months will start feeding on our street. So I would just ask that, we have this unified development plan for a purpose. To me, this is an application for an exception, and these are all houses. It's going to affect my property value that we're going to have a building that's a warehouse with a parking lot. At a very minimum, if this goes forward, I would ask that outlet on Pascal be an exit only, and that they have to go south. that they don't go north of our street. Our street, if you haven't driven down it, I mean, and there's, to my knowledge, there's not many to scrape it down to the mud again and resurface it. I mean, it's not in good condition. It's been patched a lot. Anyway, I would just ask that y'all consider, I mean, someone went to a lot of trouble. Probably you guys were heavily involved in this development plan. So I would just ask that you read what it says. And I would also point out, there was one other page that talked about whenever a lot, when you're adding a building onto an existing space, that no parking area, storage area, or open space for one building, it has to be computed for its own area requirements. It can't be based on whatever he owns already next to it. So I just asked that, this was on page 166 as well. And then when something goes from residential to commercial, are there masonry screening requirements that have been done or will be done? So I appreciate your time and your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Jenny Roush at 119 North Pascal, and I think we've discussed ad nauseum the access that we in the neighborhood are fully opposed to access onto Pascal Road. I think that's pretty clear. The question I would have is, if you go to the church, I know they have one access because I used to walk that way. One access in, one access out from the highway. And I believe the fence company is the same. I'm not sure about that, but I believe it is one access in and out. So I would recommend you go back and take a look at that and see if there are other options for us.
Well, I'll tell you, there are several places in Sunny Valley where you will only find one access in and one access out. And we've been sort of dealing with that going forward, and sort of, and as kind of the last few years, we sort of have tried to stop doing that. I can't comment on the church and when that was, you know, but I agree with you, and I understand.
I mean, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that what we're asking for, I believe, is exceptions too.
Sure.
They're asking for exceptions as well as we are too,
Sure.
just for the quiet neighborhood that we bought into.
Understand.
One other comment, and I'm not, this was, I don't know that was glossed over, but it was briefly mentioned about the lighting. One thing we really love about our road is it is dark, and you don't see a lot of the lights in the night sky. And if this does go forward, I would request that they look at lighting, indirect lighting down, so we have a dark sky initiative from not just this property, but other properties going forward.
Agreed.
So we don't end up a big metroplex.
Agreed. Ma'am, just while I have you, I'm a little confused. So are you all worried that a vehicle is going to exit this complex and drive north on Pascal and like enter this town proper? Because I can't imagine anyone would want to do that.
Oh, I believe they would.
To go to to get a 30 or something?
Trip road.
Why wouldn't they just go down the access road?
If they're coming from Collins Road, they're going to come around Pascal Road, and they're going to
It happens every day.
It happens
I mean,
every day.
coming down.
I've lived on that road for 29 years. People come out of their parking lot, and residents come out of their driveway and go right to go to 30 because it's a little bit quicker to cut across at the school where there's not school traffic than it is to go down the service road all the way up to Collins and go up Collins.
Gotcha, okay.
You
So
can bet your last dollar that they're going to exit. If they're going north to Garland or
Okay.
Rowlett or Rockwall,
They will come
they're
in
going to turn right out of there and go up Pascal.
Gotcha, okay.
And
Just want to be clear on that. I know the traffic goes down Pascal from the...
it's both ways.
Go both ways.
Both
Okay.
ways.
Okay.
And
Well, thank you.
we could probably rename it to Road to Freeway these days.
Yeah, I know that we talked about that
It's,
so much before. That was it.
and certain times of the day, I don't even go out on the road because it's
Well, the police officer
dangerous.
sits at the end there, sort of, I sometimes slows people down. I know they do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's all I have, but thank you for your time. I appreciate anything you can do to help us
Thank you.
residents out.
Okay. Anyone else? Sir, if you just state your name and address, please.
You bet.
Thanks.
My name is Teddy Jones. I live at 116 North Pascal. I've been a fireman with the Irving Fire Department for 39 years. I'm a captain out there. They're talking about entrances and exits and everything. You got to realize the property east of this belongs to the fence company. There's actually 2 entrances already over there. So you would have actually 3 entrances coming in off of the highway going to this property without the Pascal Road access. And to meet the fire code and stuff, you can take that back driveway and put a circle at the end of it, and that would give the fire apparatus a chance to go down there and make a turnaround, and they would still have access to all sides of the building, and that would meet the Uniform Fire Code.
Rashad, do you know if our fire, I'm not getting this.
This is being treated as its own development, its own entity, so it has to be developed as such.
Okay, so you can't use these ancillary structures that have access to it too?
Correct, because what if he sells the property? You know, yes, he is the owner now, but if he sells the property and someone puts up a gate across there, it's going to be a problem.
Well, you know, that's...
So I think your ideas are,
Well, you know, they're foundable and stuff, and there again, y'all treating this as a single property. It doesn't have to be that way. I mean, that is one, and you got to realize that there was 7 properties down Pascal that the fence company has bought property behind. Most of those lots used to be a 5-acre lot, and most of them are 2-acre lots down, I think, through the 5th house. So the fence company owns really deep back through Pascal Road. Y'all grant this variance, what's to say that he doesn't come back later and buy another house on Pascal Road just where he can put another entrance back there to the back of his property? So there's a lot of things to consider on this. You know, ever since they started the new development at Collins and Tripp, they have had, you know, we've had 18-wheelers coming down Pascal Road. And they resurfaced that road just this past year. And in places you can't tell that they've done that. They have tore that road up. And I know Chris, and, you know, I have no problem with the, you know, what he's wanting to do, but, you know, putting extra traffic on a private residential street is wrong. And for y'all to even consider that, it's shame on y'all. You know, these were residential houses and stuff, and the highway corridor was, you know, it was zoned highway commercial. And for y'all to go in and start granting, you know, variances and stuff for that, that shouldn't be done. Any questions?
It's really not a variance, it's really a special use permit.
Well,
so it's really not, it's really just allowing
it's semantics. It really is, but you know, you haven't done that on some other properties. And like you say, all the way up and down Highway 80, there's single entrances in and out, even on some stuff that's been redeveloped. And y'all have allowed it. And like I say, you could put a turnaround in there, and that would meet the fire code. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your talking.
Oh, you bet. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm David Burleson, 137 North Pascal and 124 North Pascal. So altogether I have approximately 11 acres on this street. Okay, I've been on this street for 2.5, almost 3 years. I can't tell you how much the traffic has increased over the past 3 years. It is immeasurable. Walk up and down our street. I live within a quarter of a mile of that school, which is part of the reason that I bought into Sunnyvale. I can't let my kids walk to school. I can't let my kids catch the bus that is a 25-mile-per-hour street. The proximity to some of those houses to that street is less than 30 feet. Okay? Where the bus stop stops, my kids wait within 5 feet of traffic. You're talking about putting a business with access up and down our street. To say that 18-wheelers, the delivery trucks, won't access our street is wrong. We see it every day. Every day. Come join me at 5:30 on a weekday. Walk your dog with me up and down my street and tell me that you don't almost get run over. It's a 25-mile-per-hour street that we repaved this year, and you can't tell it's been done because of all the traffic. Stony Creek, or the residents at Robin Ridge, objected to a cut through to their neighborhood off of Tripp. Now, why did they do that? Because they didn't want the traffic through their neighborhood. Well, we put the exit to that new section of Stony Creek right at the T of Tripp and Pascal. That housing development will have 44 houses. If every one of those houses has 2 cars, okay, that's 88 cars. If each one of those makes one trip in and out of the neighborhood, that's 176 additional cars that go up and down my front door. Join me for a walk in the evening and tell me that allowing this access won't reduce my enjoyment of my property.
Yes, sir. Well, I have one question for you. So what do you propose that